In this chapter, you will learn some more of the basic building blocks of economics. You will learn about the production possibilities frontier, an important concept called opportunity cost, and economic growth. So through this chapter, please pay attention to the definition and concept of opportunity cost. You will also learn how economists think on the margin. I don't like that. In this chapter, you will learn some of the basic building blocks of economics, including the concepts of production possibilities frontiers, opportunity cost, and economic growth. Some of the objectives of this chapter are to understand an important concept called opportunity cost, to understand how economists think on the margin. We will explore what outcomes are possible when an individual or a business or a country has a given set of resources. And we will also learn how one does more than what is possible. So first, let's explore the concept of opportunity cost. This concept is one of the most important concepts in economics. Please make sure that you understand this concept. Opportunity costs are the trade-offs that you experience when you make a choice. And you need to remember that we make choices because we all face the problem of scarcity. And remember, scarcity means there's a limited amount of whatever it is that we're talking about. Essentially, opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative. It's what you would have done. If you had not made the choice that you just made, what would you have been doing? So for example, if I go to the vending machine and I have $1.75, I can choose to purchase a can of Coca-Cola, or I can choose to purchase a can of Mountain Dew. I really don't care for the Diet Coke, and so that really wasn't even on my radar. But if I choose to purchase the Coca-Cola, that means I cannot use the $1.75 to purchase the Mountain Dew. So by purchasing the Coca-Cola, my opportunity cost is the Mountain Dew. I gave up the chance to purchase a Mountain Dew when I bought the Coca-Cola. Essentially, the opportunity cost is what you're giving up when you choose to make the decision that you just made. Scarcity forces us to make choices. We can't get around this. You have to make choices. So in the next half hour, you can choose to study economics, or you can choose to study for another class, or you can choose to sleep, or you can choose to watch Netflix. You have lots of options, but it's what you would have done in the next half hour. So the next concept to think about is how economists think on the margin. This is an important concept called marginal thinking, and it essentially means that we will think one step at a time. We think incrementally. So to get from the bottom of the steps to the top of the steps, we have to take the first step. And then once we take the first step, we take the second step. And then after the second step, we take the third step. Economists always think on the margin. We think incrementally. So another example, I might over the course of the month choose to have purchased 4 gallons of milk. But I'm not going to go out on the first day of the month necessarily and buy all 4 gallons of milk all at the same time. I'll buy the first gallon, we'll drink it, then I'll buy the second gallon. We'll drink that one. Then I'll buy the third gallon, and then we'll drink that one. So economists have this idea of thinking incrementally, marginal thinking. We think one step at a time. Another important principle that you're going to explore in this chapter is the idea of the production possibilities frontier. Essentially, the frontier is a graph that explains all the outcomes that are possible given the set of resources that you have. So on this graph, for example, we have a company, maybe they just choose, they could make pizza or they could make sugar. An odd company, I know, but those are the options. So if the company chooses to make this quantity of pizza and this quantity of sugar, so whatever that quantity of pizza is and whatever this quantity of sugar is, point A is a possible outcome for that company. They have enough resources to make point A. They have enough resources to make point B. They have enough resources to make point C. However, they do not have enough resources to make points outside the frontier. Those are unattainable points. So point F is not something that right now they have the capability of producing. They could choose to produce point D and E, but if that's all they do, they'll have resources left over, and those are inefficient points. So while they could choose any of these points, A, B, C, D, or E, A, B, and C are the efficient ones. They've used up all of their resources. D and E are inefficient, and F is unattainable. But what do you suppose a company does if they really want to produce a point that's out there? Well, something will have to change. One of the things that a company will try to discover first is what are their trade-offs? If they're going from one point to another point, what do they give up? There is a law called the law of increasing opportunity costs. On a single frontier, when you move from one point to another point, you face an increased opportunity cost. So for example, this is a different company making wheat and corn. They can choose to produce point A, perfectly possible, using up all of their resources, 200 wheat and 300 bushels of cotton. If they choose to make point B, they can do that. But in doing that, they give up 40 bushels of wheat. They go from 200 bushels down to 160 bushels. So they give up 40 bushels of wheat, but they gained 100 units of cotton. But notice if they go from point B to point C, they're going to give up 80 bushels of wheat, and they're only going to gain 80 bushels of cotton. So they're giving up more to get less when they go from B to C. Opportunity cost increases. So the more you produce of something, the higher the opportunity cost, the higher the trade-off. And that's simply because our resources are not equally suited to all tasks. Well, if a company really wants to produce points that are outside the frontier, somehow they will have to increase their resources. They will have to achieve what's called economic growth. When you do that, you have the potential to produce lots of options outside the original frontier. But it's important to notice that economic growth also comes with trade-offs. So by the end of this chapter, you should be able to answer the question. You've already studied an hour for economics today. So what should you do? Should you study another half hour for economics, or should you watch Netflix? You'll notice in answering that question, you will apply the concepts of opportunity cost. You will apply the idea of thinking on the margin. And really, you'll also apply the idea of production possibilities. What's possible for you to do with your time?